There are many interestingly built teams in the NBA today, but there's not one quite like the Phoenix Suns. They obviously ended up picking up Bradley Beal this offseason, and later on last season they did end up picking up Kevin Durant, who came from the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the real thought process behind it is that all three of these players can score the rock very well, very efficiently. They can shoot from all three levels. They're decent enough playmakers to be respected. They're solid pick and roll players. And while they don't offer enough on defense in certain aspects, they make up for it on the offensive side of the ball. Many people consider the Phoenix Suns to be contenders, but in my eyes, I don't think I'm ready to label them that. However, because of the sheer star power that they have, I have to. Now, the real issue that I have with them is the fact that all three players that I named are basically iterations of the exact same player. They all score, they're all not great at defense, they are all efficient from the field, they're all okay playmakers, they're all okay rebounders for their position. It's three of the same guy, they're just different heights and 4 years apart. Devin Booker's 26, Bradley Beal's 30, Kevin Durant's 34. And honestly, the healthiest one of them all is Kevin Durant, career-wise. But after his Achilles tear, obviously that's not the case anymore. So are we looking at Devin Booker being the healthiest guy on this roster? The closest roster construction-wise to this one would likely be the Brooklyn Nets back when they had the shot creation of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. Obviously, we saw how that played out. They were solid when they played together, but they rarely played together, and then things ended up getting blown up. On this team, Devin Booker is expected to be that top dog. He's been here his entire career. He learned how to win games from Chris Paul, who, as soon as he joined the team, catapulted them into the playoffs. And while they haven't seen the finals or had a championship to their name yet, this is going to be the opportunity for him to get the job done. Now, obviously, they do have DeAndre Ayton, and he's looking to have a season where people respect him as a top center in the league, but it still stands to reason that we haven't seen it yet. So we need to see it in order for people to feel comfortable defending him. Kevin Durant is going to fit in well with this team, I believe, because he's already been the guy that's been the top dog in the NBA, then decided that he was going to take the backseat to somebody else. In a sense, when he first did it with the Golden State Warriors, he joined Stephen Curry, and Stephen Curry, it was his team. He was the guy that was supposed to take the final shot. He was their leader. He was that galvanizing captain for that roster. And Kevin Durant respected that, let Stephen Curry do his thing, and ate out of the opportunities that Stephen Curry created. So it worked out well, and KD kind of understands how to play in that role. Obviously, last season, he also ended up playing in 8 games in the regular season before the postseason started and averaged 26 points on 57% shooting from the field and 53.7% from the three-point line, with 6.4 rebounds and 3.5 assists alongside Devin Booker, who played in 53 games last season, averaging 28 points, shooting 49.4% from the field and 35.1% from three, to go along with 4.5 rebounds and 5.5 assists. Bradley Beal is going to be that person that he's going to have to find a role for himself, and at the end of the day, there's only one basketball. And like I said, these three guys are essentially the same player at different heights with different moves to get to their shots, but they all do basically the same thing. So Bradley Beal's kind of a more redundant Devin Booker in a sense. Now, with that being said, I would say that he's a little bit more of a consistent playmaker. I trust him more in a point guard role and Devin Booker more so as a shooting guard. In 50 games, Bradley Beal did end up averaging 23 points on 50.6% shooting and 36.5% shooting from the three-point line, to go along with 3.9 rebounds and 5.4 assists. As I said before, these guys are all prolific scorers of the basketball, and that's why single-handedly, with 3 of them on the same team, you have to say they're contenders. Whether you agree that they should be or whether they can actually win a championship is not really the basis of the argument. It's more so from a talent standpoint, they are capable of doing so. If the stars align, they should be capable. Along with the bench that people didn't think that they were going to get, they did manage to bag some comfortable pieces in the offseason. Now, I wouldn't expect them to be the most galvanizing and scary, depth-riddled troops that they have in the league, but it's something. And it's not going in there with just a starting five and then one guy coming off the bench. They do have some decent pieces that will contribute, and it's going to be interesting to see if they go 8 or 9 players down and which those 8 or 9 players are come postseason time. In the sense of availability, I created a chart and I decided to break down just how healthy these guys are, because as the saying goes, and when I thought about the Nets, availability is the best ability. And while it only makes sense in certain contexts, I believe this is one of those ones where you can apply it, because with the Nets, they were really good players when they played together, but they rarely played on the court together. You're seeing that with the Clippers. Kawhi and Paul George are great players in tandem when they play together. But the thing is, asterisks, when? Because they really don't that often. Now, I looked back and Bradley Beal has played in 11 seasons at the age of 30 now, and he hasn't played any years under 40 games. He had one season where he played between 40 and 50 games, 4 games between 50 and 60 games, 2 games between 60 and 70, 2 between 70 and 80, and 2 games with 80 and above. Devin Booker in his 8 seasons at the age of 26 has been the most health consistent chart-wise from a game-by-game basis. Now, the seasons in and out, he's played 2 between 50 and 60 games, 3 between 60 and 7 games, and 3 between 70 and 80 games. So while those aren't perfect, those are definitely considerably better than, like I said, for Bradley Beal per se. Now, Kevin Durant is where it gets interesting, because he's played in the most seasons out of all of them. Obviously, he's been in the league for 16 years. He did end up having to sit out the 1920 season with his Achilles tear, and he came back, and he was really one of the only NBA players in history to have come back from that injury. At the age of 34, you wonder how much more does he have in the gas tank, and we've seen his health just kind of crumble as the years have gone on. He played 27 games in the 2014-15 season and 35 games in the 2021 season when he was first coming back from injury, and he has been decently available since. But it's a thing of when he first started in the league, he was playing year in and year out. He ended up in 3 years playing less than 40 games. Obviously, one of those years was the year that he didn't play at all because of his Achilles tear. He played 1 year between 40 and 50 games, 1 year between 50 and 60 games, 3 years between 60 and 70 games, and then 4 years between 70 and 80, and 4 years 80 plus. I consider the healthy range for players to be playing between 70 and 82 games in a season, because you can be rested, you can have the load management games, you can avoid certain back-to-back games if you don't want to put too much stress on your body and still be an effective player. But there comes a point where if you're playing in your 60s and lower, where it's an injury thing or you're continually hampered. And when you see that across the entirety of a player's career, it becomes questionable about how reliable they can be to play. And that affects how much money you're willing to pay that player, because they're not always going to be available. By my definitions, healthy is playing 70 to 82 games a season. In the health range, Bradley Beal has been, out of his 11 seasons, 4 years healthy, meaning 4 years he's played 70 plus games. Bradley Beal, 3 for 8, a little bit better. Kevin Durant, 8 for 16. Now, while Kevin Durant statistically has the highest percentage, most of those years came from the past, and that's not really up to date. Do I think that he's going to experience some serious injury this season? No, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Just like I wouldn't expect it to happen to Bradley Beal or Devin Booker. But we also have to pay attention to the obvious logic behind the fact that they just haven't been the most healthy camaraderie of players. I do expect all of them to play at least 50, 60-ish games, but beyond that, we have no major guarantees for what to expect out of them. As I said before, they're relying on a step-up season from the DeAndre Aytons of the world, and you're looking for more help on the defense side of the ball. So the question is, where does it come from? Is it going to be specifically a DeAndre Ayton thing? Is Udoka or is Bismack Biyombo going to be a matchup nightmare for opposing teams when it comes to paint protection? Is Bol Bol going to become the player that we all hoped that he would be? Is he going to take the tutelage of Kevin Durant and become a pseudo Kevin in a sense? Is he going to be that next version of him, because he does have the skill set for it, but people believe that he has attitude issues that prevent him from reaching that potential? He's also a solid enough defender that I think that he could supersede Kevin in that aspect and help kind of bridge the gap as far as minutes go. And then really the only person that logically makes sense as a defender was probably, I guess, Josh Okogie, because he's also obviously not much of an offensive threat, but it's a thing of, do you really feel comfortable in that situation? Now, understanding their roster, we know that Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal are their top 3 guys. Those are the main shows. That's the main dish that you're putting on display. Then you have your DeAndre Aytons, your Bol Bols, your Josh Okogis, your Drew Eubanks. And those are the entrees that kind of fill in the gaps. They're nice to have there. They're going to be essential down the stretch because you want to have solid play from guys. But you're also not expecting the same amount of production as you are from your main players. Then you have the Yuta Watanabe, which was a good addition in my opinion, and the Terrence Rosses, which are more so your spot-up players. They have more niche roles. They're also very solid shooters from the three-point line, which is going to be helpful in driving kick situations and just overall spacing the floor and giving those 3 guys more room to operate. So overall, it's not a terribly constructed team, but the question is, how are Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant going to coexist when all 3 of them, like I said before, time and time again, they all 3 do the same thing? They all score the basketball. That's what they're known for. Their brand isn't getting steals on defense. Their brand isn't blocking somebody or locking somebody up. Their whole thing isn't even being a playmaker for the most part. It's really just being able to shoot the long ball, shoot the midi, get to rim, get a layup. Is that a good thing? Of course. You can never have enough playmakers with the ball in their hands. You want to have some very good ball dominant play. But the question is going to be, where do they go after a certain point? And honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not personally sold on them just yet. I understand that they are contenders because just looking at it on paper, these guys can play with the best of them. And offensively, they will be able to create enough firepower as long as they all shoot as efficiently as they do singularly together. And I think that they'll be able to do great things together. I think they'll be a team that could vie for a championship, but I just don't think that right now, especially Kevin Durant hasn't been the type of player like a Stephen Curry or LeBron James, where having him on your team guarantees basically that you're going to go to the finals. He's never really been that player for me. He's been a guy where you're going to make a good playoff run. You're going to see the playoffs with Kevin Durant, but you're not guaranteed finals. Like when you think Stephen Curry, the only reason the Warriors are contenders still now going into this next season is because they still have Stephen Curry. Even though everybody's old, you still have Stephen Curry. The main reason why the Lakers are contenders is because they have LeBron James. Is Anthony Davis good? Yes. Did he handle some of those health concerns last season and play phenomenally well in the postseason? Yes. But the real reason why you consider the Lakers to be contenders is because of LeBron James. You don't think that about Kevin Durant. You don't think that about Devin Booker. You don't think that about Bradley Beal. Now that could change, and I'm very open to seeing new things in the league. And that's why I would like to see the success for anything that really should happen. I think it'll be roughly 30 to 40 games into the season. I need to see a decent sample size of all 3 of them playing together before I can make another video talking about how I either believe wholeheartedly that they're contenders or I'm just not sold. But for me personally, at the moment, I'm just up in the air about it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Tell me if you think that Kevin Durant is a player that automatically catapults you into contending status. Let me know if you guys think that they are frauds, think that they're just not those guys yet. Maybe they just need another year under their belt of playing consistently together, even though they have had a whole offseason to get it underway. But with that being said, go ahead, like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications, join the Patreon. And as always, good morning, good evening, good night, no matter where you are on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning into this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.